What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Just Grow It, the podcast. I'm your host, Big City Gardener, and we're still talking about everything kale. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about some of the best varieties that you can plant in your garden. Let's get to it. When you open a seed catalog and you go to the kale section, you're going to see a crazy amount of varieties. But did you know that there are only 3 distinct groups of kale? Don't worry, we'll talk about those in a second. Kale comes in a variety of colors and textures. Some kale plants are strictly ornamental, while others that most of us urban gardeners want, those are the edible varieties of kale. Now, I have a personal favorite variety of kale, and that is the Dino variety. And that's just because it is tried and true. I plant it every single year in my garden, regardless of whether I'm trying other varieties. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there are 3 main distinctive groups of kale. Let's talk about them. First on the list is the Mediterranean variety. Now, this happens to be my favorite variety of kale to grow. These are the longer, thinner leaf varieties. Think about the Dino kale that I mentioned earlier. One thing about the Mediterranean varieties is they do not handle freezes well. So if you live in an area that experiences harsh cold or extremely cold temperatures, then this is not the variety for you unless you decide to plant it in the spring. The second variety is the Scottish variety. Now, this is the variety that you see most often in the grocery stores. Almost every variety of curly kale is a Scottish variety. One of the perks about growing this variety is that it can handle extreme cold temperatures. We recently had a freeze down here and it killed every kale variety in my garden except for the Scottish. Even though it may look as if the plant is dead, give it a week or 2 and you'll start to see new growth appear. Now, the third and final variety are the Russian kale varieties. These are the flat, wider leaf varieties of kale. Most of the time, these varieties have serrated leaves. Like the Scottish variety, these varieties do extremely well and can handle extreme cold and freezes. So again, if you live somewhere with harsh cold temperatures, this is the variety for you. Like everything in gardening, there's a crazy amount of variety out there now. There's all sorts of crosses, combinations, and hybrids. I recommend you find a variety that works for you and plant that variety every year. But don't stop there. Next time you get your seed catalog, open up to the kale section and try out some new varieties. I prefer to grow the heirloom varieties, but like I always tell you, you do you. Find what works for you and then stick with it. That's it for this episode of Just Grow It, the podcast. Tune in next time when we give more tips on growing kale. Like always, put this podcast in your headphones, head outside, get your hands in the dirt, and just grow it. Before I let you go, I need you to do more than one thing. First, I need you to like, comment, subscribe to the podcast. Second, I need you to tell a friend or 2 about the show if you enjoyed it. And if you have anybody you think I need to talk to, I should interview, send the name over, put it in the comments, or send me an email, igrow@BigCityGardener. And check me out, man, on Instagram and on all social media platforms, Big City Gardener. We out. Oh, almost forgot. Just grow it.